Diana, I got your number from your resume on LinkedIn. My name is Sarah, and I'm an old student of... And like you, we had a relationship. I don't know the circumstances of your relationship with him, but it concerns me to see his behavior continued long after I knew him. I'm curious if you would be willing to talk to me about your experience. If not, I respect that.
Sarah, I am at a loss of words, but also have so much to say. Yes, I would love to talk to you about this. Were you a student in Iowa? This is Diana.
This is Sarah.
And this is Blooming After Grooming, our podcast.
I have had the true honor of working for or with some remarkable women. Dr. Piper Stratton is part of that group. I first met Piper when I worked as a high school counselor. She was and still is one of the school psychologists at the high school, where she has been for a little over 20 years. This woman could be doing anything, and she has chosen to use her talents and skills at a high school, which I love because she is changing lives. Sarah and I have often had conversations on the podcast about educators and adults who are willing to go above and beyond their students and do so without crossing any professional, ethical, moral boundaries. I've often thought about Piper when we've had these conversations because she has a way of being able to connect with kids, of being able to see them, which means that some of these kids form really strong attachments to her. And we get into that, and she talks about how that's kind of scary for her, having that kind of power. She is someone who I've been wanting to have on the show to talk about teenagers and the teenage brain and how adults can support today's kids. We also get into why meaningful prevention training in schools is important, and a little bit about Erin's Law as well. We're so grateful to have her on the show. Enjoy our conversation with Dr. Piper Stratton.
Good.
How are you?
I'm great. How about you guys?
Doing okay. Is it snowing where you are, Piper?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Yeah. This time of year is tough. It's all over the place, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Apart from not being able to make the drive probably this weekend to go see Sarah and celebrate her 40th birthday.
Happy
I'm getting a blizzard for my birthday, unfortunately.
Oh
We're
my
supposed
God.
to get 18 inches of snow where I live on Sundays, so...
Shit. That sucks.
Yes,
You
it
can go
does.
sledding.
That's what I
Go
told Diana. I'm like,
sledding.
we have a sledding party. But I'm trying to also tell my out-of-town friends that it's okay for them not to come because it'll be very hard for them to get home safely afterwards. So it's putting a big wrench in a bunch of
I
stuff.
don't like that option.
I know. I don't. The alternative is a bunch of people not going to work until like Tuesday. So I don't know what's going to happen here.
That sounds amazing.
But this is the point that Sarah made that I was like, okay, you're right. I have to think about that. Should something happen to me on the 4.5-ish hour drive, now her birthday would forever be tainted by my deathversary. So I don't want that to happen.
Brain goes. This
Yes,
is where my brain
so
goes.
I don't want
That's
that.
heavy.
This
That's
is how
how
we are.
This is how my brain
This
functions.
podcast.
I'm like, okay, and then my friends are all going to die in a car accident. It'll be my fault because I'm a brat and I had a birthday party. Yeah, no, that's how my brain works.
You're like,
Worst
I'll
case
cry.
scenario. Yeah.
That's good.
That's our
We
style
go to
here at
therapy.
Blooming After
It's going to be
Grooming.
fine.
Exactly.
Speaking of blooming after grooming, Piper, thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast. Could you, for all of us, Sarah and myself included, can you share a little bit about your background? Whatever you feel free to share. Tell us a little bit about who is Dr. Piper Stratton.
Okay. Where do you start? I'll start with education. That's just the easiest, right? I went to college at University of Rochester, upstate New York. Studied psychology there.
Oh, that's right. You're an East Coast gal, right? Aren't you from?
I grew up in Connecticut. Yeah, grew up in Connecticut. An interesting, not very important fact, but the town I grew up in Connecticut, my son now lives in. Like, he's just living there. He went to school in Connecticut for law school, and he moved to my hometown, and he just lives in my. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you think he did that?
And he loves it. Not really. Like, he always did everything I do. He's like, Mom, nobody cares about your East Coast ways, you know. And he moved,
and now he's living there.
Yeah.
I'm like, you
Kids.
brat. Now you know why the East Coast is amazing. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, when I went to college, I actually lived here in Illinois and went back. I was trying to make my way back east, which only sort of worked. And I ended up back in Illinois for graduate school, Illinois School of Professional Psychology back in 1991 and 1994. Graduated, and fun first job out of my graduate program. My first job was on a DID unit, which is a dissociative identity disorders unit, which I don't even think they have them anymore, really, anywhere. But my first job literally was working with people who at that time were sort of half called multiple personality disorder. So lots and lots of trauma and very complicated like histories and symptom presentations. It's kind of like training by fire, like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
You were in it. Yeah.
In
You had to
it.
learn.
I had to learn. Yeah. And I worked for some pretty awesome psychologists and psychiatrists. I did work 10 years in the clinical field before I went into schools later. So I really didn't plan on being in schools at all.
How did you end up getting into schools then?
I did that DID job, and then I worked at Maryville Academy, which was like that really big orphanage / they don't call it orphanages anymore, but like residential facility for kids that are highly traumatized. Many of them, lots of, obviously in foster care or didn't make it in foster care. Did that for a few years, and then I had kids, and I was like, oh, like this schedule kind of sucks for being a mom. Really, honestly, it was terrible. Like, because when you're working like all those sort of evening hours, and I wanted to be home for my kids, like when they're home. I want to be home when they're home. So I went back to school, got another master's degree so I could work in schools, and got that done. And actually, I've been at for 23 years. So like, it was like my first real job as a school psychologist.
So you've never had like a chill job?
No.
I can't imagine you in a chill job. I think you kind of need that, like,
I've always,
where can I help? Where can I problem solve?
Give me something impossible where there's like very little progress ever made, You're like
describing other people's nightmares.
Oh, but that's why I love you, Piper. That's what I loved about working with you.
It's all the little micro. Really, you have to be appreciative of those little moments. And you're like, we say I'm a restorative trainer. I train people in restorative practices. And one of the things we talk about is like you're planting a seed for the plant that you'll never see. Like you don't see the plant that grows from that seed. So, and that's fine with me.
Giving a shit about the future in which you will no longer be here for. We need...
Right.
America could use more of that right now.
So I didn't tell you the last part of my educational journey. I got off track. Sorry.
Oh, that's right. You mean when you became Dr. Piper Stratton? That's right. All right.
Yeah. So then I went back to school because you remember Mr. at all, Diana? Was he there when you were there?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. He used to come to my door every day. You need to get your doctorate because it'll really help with your pension every single day.
Great.
And finally I was like, okay, Jesus.
That's how he got me to join the union, is he showed up like every Friday and made me join the union.
Anyway, so then I got my doctorate in school psychology.
Dang, we got a doctor in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't like kids to call me that. Like it feels kind of awkward. So kids just call me Piper or Miss Piper.
Okay, well we can call you doctor because it's cool. And we're proud of you for doing that because that's like a lot of work. You went to school a lot.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I always tell kids you don't have to do what I did. You can do this way faster.
Yeah,
one master's and you're good to go.
That is so. Sidebar, and then we'll get to the meat of the episode. But I don't remember like, a ton of lessons that I learned in high school, but I do remember, and I might have shared this with both of you already, but I remember in my freshman year at high school, one of my teachers, I think it was like family and personal relationships or something like that, which was actually a pretty cool class.
I bet.
I kept calling her Mrs. So-and-so, and she like very kindly She was one of those ladies who like always just had a smile on her face, like one of those older ladies who just like she's saying even like mean things, but she's smiling, so like it doesn't feel as bad.
Where were you
But
from?
she, yeah, but she very politely was like, "It's actually Doctor so and so," and she said, "I worked very hard for my degree," and I was like, "Oh, you know what? That's a good point." So
Yeah.
ever since then, until someone tells me, call me Piper, I will give the
Use
formal
their,
title.
yeah.
Yes. Because
Yeah.
it is well earned.
It
Yeah.
does bother me when like professionals, like administrators, don't use my
Because then
formal.
it probably
Good.
feels like a dig or something.
Then I'm like, I feel like you should know, and feels weird then.
Okay, so I do want to. Okay, so umbrella topic of
Yes.
this idea of kids who, for example, I have a friend who we've talked about on this podcast who's also a survivor of grooming, and she looks back now at her time when she was like 16, 17, 18
Mm-hmm.
and reflects on how much trust was placed on her because she was one of these top tiered students. She was an athlete. She was in like honors AP classes, student
Mm-hmm.
council, athletics, so teachers, adults often would give her certain privileges or like certain levels of trust that other kids didn't get. And so now as a 30 something year old woman, it's something that she kind of really looks back on. And so
Mm-hmm.
I guess part one of this thought is your thoughts on balancing giving adolescents and youth like that autonomy and independence so that they can learn, right, and adapt while also still having like some kind of safety net so you're not just saying things like, "Oh, my kid wouldn't be groomed because they know
They're too
better."
smart.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. So, and then
Yeah.
with that, like, why is that also just like developmentally factually wrong? What can you tell us about the developing adolescent brain on like why saying something like, "Oh, they know better, they should know better," is incorrect and also unfair? So,
Totally. It's so funny you're saying this right now because literally today in the Aaron's Law presentation, we had a new presenter who I hadn't seen present yet. And she told the kids, of course, all of you know all of this. This is all really obvious, and you guys really all know this. And I'm like, wrong. Like, that's wrong. That's just the wrong thing to say. Plus, it's demeaning to somebody who
Maybe didn't know
falls
that.
into the trap.
Yeah.
Like, then you just feel like this can only happen to stupid people.
That then keeps people silent, right? Because it's embarrassing. Because then you think you're done.
Correct. That's what
Yeah.
I was thinking. So I was like, well, wait a minute, because I can't keep my mouth shut.
Good, Piper. We love it. We love that kind of person, that kind of woman. That kind of woman.
I think it's
To be
annoying.
clear. To be clear. Men, shut the fuck up. Women.
You've had your
think
time.
It actually can be annoying to some people, though. So just to be clear.
To what kind of people though, right? Like,
well, people come in and they're like presenting, and then I'm like, but wait a minute, there's more, and I want to say something from the back of the room or whatever, which I think it makes it a conversation. It makes it more
Yes.
interesting. But I mean, I'm not like, maybe somebody else doesn't. They might be like, you're interrupting, or now
Yeah.
I've lost my flow.
Or some people just want to like get in and out, like do it and then like
Right.
move on. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I feel like I
Okay.
interrupted.
I think that it's really important that everybody knows that there's nobody like that's necessarily couldn't fall into this issue, right? It's not about being too smart or too streetwise or any of those things. Kids are looking, high school kids especially, and middle school kids are looking for love. They're looking for identity. They want to be special. Like to somebody somewhere, like to be seen. Like that's the new way that everybody talks about it. They want to be seen, but they want to be seen, and they want to be seen for like what makes them different, what makes them worthy or not, or just special. And sometimes it's not really happening at home in the same way, or there's a lot of givens and people just think everybody's fine or not asking how you are. And then that one teacher gives you attention and tells you you're special. And like, there must be like the dopamine receptors and the serotonin, everything must be going crazy in the brain. Like, wow, somebody thinks I'm special.
I talk about like that's how, and I don't see it. This might not be the best way to say it, but that's how he got me, right? Is that like I was this kind of outcast I felt very unattractive because I was one of the only students of color. And here was this older man like giving me attention of all people and saying these things about me. Like, yeah, it was, as
Like he
Sarah
sees
so
the
well
real
put it,
you. But
intoxicating. Yes.
yeah.
That, oh, yeah, yeah. The real, yeah. Ugh. Mm.
For the
Because it's just
listeners, that
like
was a very big eye roll. Yes.
the
Oh,
real me at age 16,
Yeah.
when, yeah,
yeah.
it's just
Like he gets
gross.
me,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh.
and I do think that's also an age where you're trying to pull away from that kind of attention from your parents, right? Like your parents, you could
Exactly. Yes,
still have a family that's being very like, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you're talented, you're
totally.
everything, but you don't care because that's your
Right.
mom and she has to say that to you, which
Hmm.
you're too young to realize she doesn't. And there are a lot of people that don't get told those things by their parents, so you take it for
True.
granted. So I do think that that's, a big part of it too. Like I have a lot of friends whose kids are getting into high school now and they're like, this kid won't listen to me. He doesn't think I know what I'm talking about. And I have to keep being like, I'm 40 years old. I know this is a fact. And this kid thinks I'm stupid. And it's like, but do you remember what it was like to be a teenager? Like we did not value our parents' input. So even if kids are getting some of that attention from home, that's not where they want it from. So
Correct. Yeah.
I think a lot of times parents too think like, well, I do a lot to like build up my kids' confidence and they have self-confidence. So that means they would never fall into this trap. But I think it's important to just say like, that's bullshit. I mean, it's just not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the job of adolescence is to individuate and to become autonomous so that you can eventually stand on your own 2 feet. So you have to move away from your parents.
Mm.
So but you are looking for like another something, sometimes something else to attach to,
Yeah.
sort of survival wise,
Yeah.
biologically.
And that's
And
why
then
teenagers are stressful because they attach themselves sometimes to bad
so
things.
fast sometimes too, but not even always. I even think about myself. Like I mean, every year I get a few kids that like really attach to me.
Hmm.
I mean, Diana used to see it too.
Oh,
They'd be
yes.
like trying to see me all day long. I was sort of thinking about like that's a lot of power that
Mhm.
that I had with them over them if I ever was that kind of person. Like
Yeah.
that's a little scary. It's like admiration, you can use that for evil.
And I think they had like a respect for you and also just I think felt so safe with you. And I'm curious if you know, Piper, like if as you've reflected on
Mhm.
this power that you have and how you're using it for good, but were you a
Mhm.
different person, you could use it for evil. Like what do you think it is about how you engage with the kids and youth that does help them see you as like a person that they can trust and rely on so much?
Feel like it's a little of a tricky balance to be an authority but also someone that talks to other humans like hierarchically, like we're on the same level. So I talk to kids like they're on the same level as me. It does not mean that I am not an authority figure in their life. That's where it gets a little like if you're not using that for good and you're using that because you're getting your own like your own needs for like admiration or affection or narcissism or whatever that is, it's like you need to hopefully you're getting those needs met somewhere else. But I do think the reason that happened is I talked to kids like they were worthy of my respect and like I'm not above them.
It's like intention, right? Like that's the
Yes.
big difference.
Yeah, right. And my intention actually is to get kids to feel seen and then to be able to see their own worth,
Mhm.
right? Like so they can walk away being like, I can do things or I'm not that fucked up.
Yeah.
Because they all come in thinking they're so messed up. Most of them aren't. They're just like figuring stuff out. Some of them are more like worshipful than others, and then you're like, okay, like I don't want to be up on a
So
pedestal with you.
have you ever had to set boundaries? Like I think that's an interesting thought too of like, if you are a well-intentioned person and your goal when you're a teacher or you're a counselor or whatever, anybody who might have exposure to kids, you feel that vibe is happening. Like have you ever had to like set boundaries? How do you set those boundaries? Or is that just something that you're like, I need to kind of rein back from this kid a little bit? Like
I
how
do
would
it in
you
different
suggest
ways. I have
people?
like
Yeah.
two methods or three. A main method, I have an avoidant method and a direct method. My avoidant method is I'm busy when they come find me. Tell so-and-so Piper's not around.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I remember this one.
You kind of have to do that sometimes because if you're always, I mean, not, I usually was busy, like, so it's not that hard to do.
Eating and someone comes in and like, oh, hey, Piper, someone's looking for you. No, not right now. I'm eating my lunch. Damn it.
Nope, that's not allowed.
No. Okay, so avoid it.
So with a more like persistent, like I've had girls more so than boys, but boys too, who would be like, I want you to take me for my hair appointment, or I want you to like do things that would traditionally maybe be a mother thing or like a family member, or I mean, I just have to remind them, like, remember, like I'm like your teacher / therapist / psychologist. I'm not, like, that's not my role with you. You know?
How do they respond to that? Like, do you think that do they seem like hurt by it? Do they seem like, oh no, yeah, you're like, I get it, you know?
I think it can feel kind of rejecting.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's got to be hard when you're dealing with kids, because I feel like, you know, if you're dealing with an adult, say you really like your therapist and you're like, man, I would just love to like go get coffee with you sometime. Like, surely, like, I want to be your friend. And your therapist is like, like, I can't do that. I'm your therapist. As an adult, you'd be like, oh yeah, duh. That makes sense. But like, if you're 16, 15 years old, like you might not have really just the basic understanding of what the boundaries are of some of those relationships. And I think especially when you're not a quote unquote like teacher, I'm sure that can also blur the lines for kids sometimes where they don't understand, okay, then what are you? Because you're not teaching me math. You know what I mean? Like you're different than the other adults or something. So
and we're alone.
Confusing. Yeah.
We're alone. I had a boy once tell me a few months before his graduation, it was weird. And I had the lights dimmed because I had a migraine that day. And he said, oh, this is what he said. He goes, I just want you to know I find you very alluring.
Ew.
You were like, okay. And I find you in a need to get the fuck out of my office right now.
What did you say?
I was like 48. I mean, I
could still be alluring, Piper.
You're like, I do moisturize a lot, but you gotta go. But that's normal. Like, that is a normal adolescent thing, though. Like, to have a crush on an adult.
I don't even remember what I said, but I set some kind of boundary, and then he left, and I like freaked out, and I like ran out of my office into office, and I'm like, like this just happened.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, though, Sarah, which I just lost from my brain.
That it's normal to have crushes on adults?
Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That it is normal for, I was always crushing on older men mostly. And yeah, like that is a normal thing. I feel that happens, but it is on the adults to be the one to say, no, this is not appropriate. You know,
right. You can feel that way, and thank you. But...
sure. But
thanks,
that's where
but
it ends.
No thanks.
Yeah. There are times when I think adults have to step up and tell kids, I'm the adult and you're the kid. This is not that kind of relationship.
Can you talk a little bit about the training that you mentioned earlier, that like some of the teachers are very young, and you know, like the natural thing sometimes is that, like kids get crushes on older people. So like what kind of training
for the teachers
does your district is provided for you all to, in a meaningful way? Like, is there meaningful training? Is there hands-on training that talks to the adults about preventing situations that could appear to be grooming, or you know what I'm trying to say? What kind of training do you receive?
We talked about this at one point, but the training is terrible, right?
The online modules.
The online modules. So anybody not in education who's listening to this probably doesn't know that many of the things teachers get trained on are, you're given these pre-recorded like 25 slide PowerPoints that are like, have voiceovers telling you like, you know, don't touch kids. This is a boundary violation. And nobody does them. Teachers don't, they just space bar all the way through it to the end, take the quiz, say, I know you shouldn't groom kids. Yes, I know that answer. But like, it's totally not meaningful.
No, Piper, I literally had an administrator give me a packet with the answers.
So,
Is that legal?
No, I don't know, but I think the issue is like to 90 whatever percent of people, yeah, these things are obvious and you do feel like this is ridiculous. Why do I have to be taught not to touch kids or whatever it is? There's sexual abuse, there's grooming, there's all of them are just these stupid PowerPoints that nobody reads.
Well, and that's the thing is we've read study after study that talks about like in-person trainings are more impactful and survivor-led trainings can be more impactful. And survivor-led trainings that took place in the district or the city or state can be more impactful because a lot of people have these concepts of like it could never happen here, it could never happen at my school, blah blah blah, but people are so hesitant to do that. And I find it interesting like why districts are scared of that. And I don't know, I mean, in our case it might be like liability, you know, because I've offered to my school a few times like I will come and I will talk to the staff like this did happen in this building, you know, and they like always gloss over it and like never go anywhere near it with a 10-foot pole. But I'm sure, unfortunately, it's like their lawyers are probably like, oh my God, it's gonna, I don't know. But it's
I don't
fascinating
know
to
if
me.
it's a resistance to the concept of training in person. I think it just falls to the bottom of a very long list of
Yeah.
priorities. It's just not the top priority. And there's like it's less than 5 in-service days in a year where teachers get trained. So they have to choose what and this in-service days are usually like 6.5 hours. They're not even full days.
Yeah.
So like they really have to pick and choose what they're going to train people on.
Yeah.
Right. But okay.
Does this seem
We
important?
know.
Is that what you're saying?
No, it does. I just had a thought that I want to hear your thought on, Piper, because yes, the priorities we know, administrators every year there's new laws that get passed that administrators and superintendents have to find a way to work into.
Jam it in somewhere.
All of that. Yeah. But here's what we know about educator sexual misconduct is that right now estimates are light estimate is that like 10% of kids right now are being groomed or sexually abused. That is 2 Chicagos. Like it's affecting so many kids. So like why, I don't expect you to have the answer, but like that's my frustration is like, why isn't this? We know it's happening. Why isn't this more of a priority for school staff, but also families? And, you know, just like and maybe it's because it's uncomfortable. And like Sarah was saying, no one wants to believe that it's going to happen in their district. But I mean, that just makes kids suffer in silence.
Yeah, I can't tell you why. I think probably the answer has to do with this sort of thing has to probably come down from like the state. And it's one of those things you just have to force people to do in a certain way and not allow them to stamp the box with one of those GCN frontline trainings. They have to probably legislate it. People will never do it unless they just won't.
And that's the hard thing is like, even the legislation happens, even if you have legislation that says this is required training, nobody is checking in that it's getting done or that it's getting done properly or that it's being done in a meaningful manner. It's such a complicated problem. And I do think partially, like you said, Diana, I do think it is that it's uncomfortable and it's ishy and people don't think about it. I think we all have a misconception that we would know it if it was happening around us, right? And I think that's the problem too, is I think people think they don't need to be trained because they think it's really black and white and that it'd be really obvious to see and that the teacher or administrator would be really creepy, you know, like it's that idea of like the boogeyman. Yeah. And that's just not how a lot of these people are. Like they can be normal looking people.
That's what it's just the timing of this and doing all these Erin's Law presentations is so good because I'm like telling people what I'm hearing from you guys. Like your stories are like every single Erin's Law presentation that I have been in, I have said, listen, I have 2 friends. Sarah, I'm calling you my friend.
Very nice. I appreciate it.
Who went through this and they are normal people and the teacher seemed normal. Like you're not going to know. Like you have to you need to listen and believe that this could actually happen to you or a friend. And I tell them also what the concept that wishing that a friend had seen it and recognized it and like would tell you like this doesn't seem, what's going on here seems weird, and like maybe telling another adult. Like the friends are almost more important than the kid that's going through it.
Yeah, we've said that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've said that a lot because
Yeah.
if you're the one being groomed, it's kind of like when you're in an abusive relationship. Like you don't see the thing that you're in the middle of, right? Like
Right.
when
No.
you've got that shitty boyfriend when you're 23 and all your friends are like, girl. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, he'll change. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, you can't see what you're in the middle of, but it's really obvious to everyone around you. So yeah, we've talked a lot about that the training almost needs
Yeah.
to be more towards if this is happening to your friend, you know, like this is how
Yeah.
you help them.
It also lowers their defensiveness because I think some of them feel like they would know.
Yeah.
It was actually, I've told the story before on my About Diane episode from season 1, that it was actually, I call him Matt. It was actually who
Okay.
like helped me have like my aha moment, because he was the first adult man who ever said to me, like, you know, that situation wasn't okay. Like he wasn't judgy
Yeah.
about it. He wasn't,
Yeah.
he didn't
He's
tell me
awesome.
what to do about it. He was just like, I'm going to tell you how I feel about this, and then you do what you want with it. And like that really was one of the first times that I started like
You're like, oh,
thinking
that
twice
was
about,
bad.
right, because up until then every other reaction was like, ooh, what? Like scandal, you were with your teacher. Like, so it was just a very different reaction that made me like stop and think. So yeah, it is the bystanders, it's the friends who, you know, are seeing things, who need that kind of training and to know the warning signs as well. Can you talk a little bit about what Erin's Law is?
Oh, I'll do my best. Well, Erin, I don't know her last name, and I'm suck at details like this, but she is from Illinois, somewhere around here.
I think she also came from Schaumburg.
Yeah, Downers Grove or Schaumburg. Yeah, maybe it is Schaumburg. But she was sexually abused by a family member as a child, and she has just made it her life's work to make sure that there's education for kids on talking about it and telling people. And she's made it a law. So it is now a law, and I don't know, it's a lot of states, more than 20 states, I think.
38 states.
Okay.
Yeah.
All kids every year have to have that one time. Yeah. So we actually talked about that today, that our freshmen have grown up in this generation. So a lot of them have had this presentation every year for like 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So
interesting.
it's like they're hearing it over and over and over again. And we're kind of wondering about the impact of that. If it starts being like blah, 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 blah to them, or if just sort of like, of course I would say something if this was happening. I don't know. Like how is this affecting the kids?
Yeah. And I think, is it also Erin's Law that mandates the suicide prevention, or is that a different
That's different.
law? Okay. Just
but
curious.
the suicide one is another GCN. It's another frontline 20 slide PowerPoint.
Until Piper Stratton showed up and turned it into the DC Fights a Stigma mental health awareness campaign. Yeah. With the help of many, but let's be honest. I'm going to just be honest that it was Piper.
Yeah.
That brought
Also,
it to the school.
Sidebar, guess what isn't one of the 38 states that has Erin's Law in action?
Iowa.
Add it to my fucking to-do list.
You should call Erin. She's still doing it. I wonder
if we could get Erin on the podcast.
You should. I think that would be really cool. But I think what we're doing, which is kind of cool with the high school Erin's Law training, is it's not just the sexual abuse stuff. It's also like boundaries with adults older than you, any intimate relationship or family relationship, and also just what is a healthy relationship. Like what does that look like? Does your boyfriend go through your phone? Is that right?
Oh, that's not so huge. Can you imagine if we'd been like, oh God, the years of my life I could have avoided if I had that kind of education at a young age? Because you do have the perception, again, right, that like I'm smarter than that. Like I always use Oprah as the example. Like I grew up in the Oprah era where you'd like go home after school and eat your fucking PB&J and you'd be watching Oprah and there'd be like the abused wives.
I love Oprah.
And you'd have the abused wives. You'd be like, I would never, right? Like these women are so dumb. Like they're letting this guy beat the shit out of them. Like, because I was like 8 watching this shit.
Oh my God.
What do I know?
You're like, I know this stuff. I'm 8.
Yeah, I'm 8. I'm a latchkey kid with single parents. Like, listen, you single mom, raised by a single mom who's a nurse, latchkey kid in the 90s. You're watching some shit you probably shouldn't be. But like, you have this perception that people in these situations are dumb, right? Or that they're missing some big obvious red flag, and then
or that they're doing it to themselves in some way.
They're making a choice, right? Right? That's a huge part of it. And same with like, you know, goodness, the Epstein files. There's a lot of that going on right now too, where people are like, well, they took settlement money and they got paid to recruit other girls, so they weren't being abused.
Oh my
And it's
God.
like, when you don't understand abuse and you don't understand grooming, you don't know what you're looking for. And so same thing, it's like, I can't imagine how valuable that would have been for our generation and all generations before to be taught like, what is a healthy relationship, full stop. Like,
Yeah.
even if age appropriate,
Even if you don't even get super into like the really bad stuff, it's like, what does a good one look like? I do, one of the things I do in private practice is marital and couples therapy. I mean, I'm dealing with, you know, grown ass adults, like 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even who've been married a long time, who are in terrible relationships.
Yeah.
Where they treat each other like crap, say terrible things to each other. It's like, did anybody ever teach you how you're supposed to act with a partner?
Probably not.
Especially a long-term partner, like after the honeymoon is over, and you start to have like feelings like, oh my God, I hate when he does like this or this or this, right? But people just start getting mean and nasty, and
that's what friends are for. You go and you bitch about how he never puts the fucking towel back on the thing, and you say it to your friend, and you drink some wine, and then you go home and you're like, I love you so much. That's how you do it. Because it's normal to be agitated with people. I mean, that's cohabitating.
One of the Erin's Law ones, the lady comes in and she said, it's not, she basically, I think she slipped, so I'm not holding her accountable for this, but she said, it's not normal for people to yell in healthy relationships. And I was like, huh.
You're like, uh-oh.
Like, uh-oh, I'm going to interrupt again.
Like, just sit down, lady. Let me do this for you.
I know, but I'm like, what do you do when you disagree? Like, are we going to teach people how to act when they disagree? If like all they've ever seen is their parents screaming at each other, like, what's the alternative, you know, when you're angry? There's a whole series, there's a type of relationship called volatile. Both people tend to have that fiery temper that can be extremely healthy, beautiful relationship. And there's totally yelling. And by the way, they have the best sex of any of the other types of relationships.
I was just thinking about
Diana just got so much hope. You just like reignited her belief in love.
You really did.
This is exactly what Diana needed to hear. She needs to find another feisty
I'm saying it can be done. It can be done. It can be done. The only problem with the volatile, if both people have to be volatile though. Because when one is not, one is like a different type, like avoidant or validating. The only problem is it will tend towards contempt. So you have to be sure that you're not name calling, character assassinating, and all the really nasty stuff. Because then you've like pushed it into not healthy.
That's just hostile. Like that's just
that's
well, it can get but when you're yelling and all that passion, like things fly, you know.
Oh.
So anyway, I'm off on another topic.
Diana's like, what? I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no idea. I'm
just like sweating right now.
She's so red. But it is true. Like, it's also, you can kind of meet people where they are. I think about that a lot with like, oh my God, we're getting so off subject. But I think about that a lot with like, I was in a relationship with like a really verbally and emotionally abusive guy after the teacher, and especially when he was drinking and he would just scream and like throw things, and it was awful, and it was this whole thing. And I think back to like, God, when we would fight, I was like screaming and like, because you can't stay down here when somebody's up here.
It's very
then now
hard.
me and my husband, it's like, I don't think we
don't do
we
that.
get into arguments, and I'll be super like, I am getting really frustrated right now, and I look so much.
I'm using I feel statements.
Yes. Yeah. But it's like, I would never yell. I mean, like, we would never yell at each other the way that I yelled at that guy. But so I do think there is also that of like, your behavior can really be impacted by other people's behavior.
I agree. Yeah. And you got to figure that out, like, or move on, you know?
Yeah. But that also goes back to like the whole idea of grooming and abusing children, and like manipulation is, you know, those kids will also meet that adult where they are, right? So if that adult is pushing those boundaries and there's some interest there from the kid, they're going to go. Or if that adult is doing risky behaviors, you know, that kid is probably going to meet that adult where they're at. Like, it's a little bit of follow the leader.
This is that child's probable one of their first one or two relationships in their whole life. And if I think about anybody that I know, their first relationship is like, it shapes future relationships. It shapes how you think about relationships. It tells you like what's normal. So that teacher in this case is like totally fucking up this kid's like understanding of what is normal.
Yes, he did.
And this is why I am the way I am in relationships, because from ages 16 through fucking 25, I was being manipulated and yelled at. And
you thought it was normal.
And I thought,
like,
and then I met,
to some degree.
I met Dan, and he was like, why are you yelling at me? I've never fought with anyone like this. Why are we doing it this way? And slowly, like, I started realizing like, oh yeah, this is because my parents, they fought all the time too. You know, like where were my references other than like, you know, teeny bot movies where it's just like, oh, someone's going to come save you and be a friend, all that, whatever. So I guess my question would be, Piper, let's say that like, someone did know, like an adult really did know what was going on, that I was being groomed and sexually abused. And let's say that they tried to get me to see the situation for what it was, but you know, like no one was going to tell me what to do. Like, so how can adults who are maybe worried about kids, like who maybe how do you help a kid who maybe doesn't want the help?
I think there's no quick fix. Let's start there. Once somebody has been like sort of all wound up in whatever web they're in, especially teenage girl, teenage boy, whatever, getting them unwound, like that person has to unwind themselves a little bit, right? With the adult's help, with their mom's help, their dad's help, so that there's not so much shame, or I don't know, you have to normalize it. You can be like, of course you feel this way. But that's like a slow thing. Like
and I think that's what can lead parents to not doing anything, right? Like, I know in my case, like, you know, one of my parents, that was their whole thing, was like, well, if I had told her no, it would have driven her to him. And it's like, sure, but you know what I mean? You could have also told the school, and you could have called the cops. Like, there's other steps besides me, like making the teenager be responsible for breaking that thing up. There's also like, you could involve other authority figures, because it isn't just about your kid.
But the parent is probably thinking, in some of these cases at least, I'm going to lose my kid.
That's what I think.
I'm going to lose my relationship with my daughter.
Hey, but here's my big pushback to that, as a person that has that.
I kind of want you to, by the way.
I personally feel like the safety of your kid should be more important than your need to be liked by your child.
Right.
Like, I would rather have a kid.
Relationship. Yeah.
I would rather have a kid that never speaks to me again than have a kid that I let be sexually abused.
Right.
But I don't have a kid, so that's easy for me to say.
But I think that's worth saying twice, you know. Like, you might have to sacrifice that relationship for some period of time. I don't know. Like, I think parents have, you know, very vivid imaginations about all the things that can go wrong. Like, so they tear you away from the love of your life, and then you run away into something worse. Who knows what they're thinking?
And I think the irony with that is, I don't want to lose my relationship with my kid, but you might not lose it now, but you might lose it later, because once that kid grows up and sees that situation for what it was,
and it's like,
the
oh my God,
resentment is going to be so intense that they're going to be like, later days, you know, like pull away from you.
You got some splaining to do.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. You'll pay. You're going to pay today, or you're going to pay tomorrow. Yeah.
And why not pay today and not have your kid get abused? Nah.
As we have said a couple of times, Sarah and I are not mothers of humans.
Okay.
But you are. You have raised two boys.
Yes.
What is that like? I have so many questions. First of all, how do you raise two boys in today's world?
There's a lot of research about explicit teaching of your kids on what to do or not do in certain circumstances. Right? So when
like
my kids were
to your kids,
you talk to your kids about things that can happen.
Sounds
like
so simple.
way in advance. Like these things are maybe 5 years down the line. Like there's research on they took two groups of boys. How this worked is boys that had been told, if you ever see a girl, she's getting drunk and guys are hitting on her, and maybe some guys are like trying to get her into another room, or they're sort of taking advantage of the drunkenness. Like this is a scenario. Unfortunately, almost anybody you talk to can say that this has happened at least one time in their life. They've seen something like this or been part of something like this. Boys that are told in advance, you should stand up and do something to make sure that girl does not get hurt, even if it means you might get hurt, right? Are like 50 times more likely to do something. The boys that are not explicitly taught that are bystanders that just walk away.
Yeah. Because we're like pack animals, though, and the idea is that you want to fit in with a group, and if you're pushing back in a situation like that, you are endangering.
You're not cool anymore.
Yeah, you're endangering, like, if you're going to fit in with this group or this clique or whatever. And I do think, again, there's just that assumption that kids know all this stuff, and that everyone thinks their a lot of parents think their kids are just like perfect and they're good people, and it's like they're also 14. And like, what the fuck do they know?
Have you ever been to a middle school? Like,
yeah,
middle school
dumb.
kids are like monsters.
Yeah, like
they're hormone monsters.
Of them are like horrible people.
Yeah,
like they're nasty. They're bullies. Everyone.
That's when you
like,
gotta intervene.
Like
they could go one way or the other.
Like,
yeah,
because so bad.
Because they haven't lived long enough to understand other people's point of view.
Kids are awful to each other, and if you don't teach your kids what they should do in those situations, if you just assume it's not going to happen to them, you're setting them up. Girls and boys, there are people out there that will take advantage of you. There will people out there that will make you feel special, but it will be for the wrong reasons. Like you can teach kids this. You can teach them, and they will learn it, and they will remember it. When the English teacher does that, they're going to be like,
yeah,
I've seen this before.
Say you're working at a school district, or your kid's at a school district, or you are the teenager at a school district, and it turns out that a teacher has been abusing one of the students and they get fired, and that student has to change school districts because, all of the drama around it. What happens to all those other kids? Like, are they getting counseling? Are staff getting counseling? Or is it just like, we're not going to talk about that, and we're just going to move on?
I think it's the latter.
Gross.
I feel like it's sort of swept. I feel like it's swept very quickly because it's really embarrassing I think it's embarrassing to a school district. So I think they do try to shove it under.
Yeah.
I remember one time, and I don't know how to say this without, I don't want to reveal any people, but there was a teacher who was, rather than fired, he was just transferred inside the district.
Oh, no.
That's called pass the trash, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know if
there are laws against that.
I was sitting doing my GCN training on grooming, and I was like, oh, this is just like so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And he was sitting at the table right next.
Piper, what was this?
That's amazing. I hope that person felt like a piece of shit when you said that. You shouldn't feel embarrassed at all.
Like,
that's delightful.
Yeah, honestly.
God.
You should have just been like, have you gotten that figured out? Did you learn to stop doing that? Is this training about you? Is this about you over here?
I know,
oh my God, you're
like
famous.
That. But I did not do it on purpose.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's the best foot and mouth story I've ever heard. Well, I do think that's I do think that's disappointing to hear, though, on just like the follow up, because I do know that, like, Diana, that was an ask that you had, or just like a goal. And I've had to, like, working with my district, of just like, what are you doing, like, moving forward, right? Like, what are we doing to help these kids and help these students? And I know it's hard when, my allegations were from 20 years ago, right? But it still hits. Like, even if that teacher doesn't work there anymore, like, you're in a small town, in my case, and all of a sudden you find out that, like, your school district has this history.
A couple more questions before we wrap up. Piper, what can you tell us about the human brain between ages 18 through 23? Because at this age, is developmentally, we're still very much growing
Right.
up into like true adulthood, but
Decision making
societally
not there. Yeah.
is like, yeah, exactly. But socially, there's the protections are just like, it's, oh, you're 18, you're on your own. I think about that a lot of like, this is an age group that still is so
Very
vulnerable.
vulnerable.
And like taking baby steps into adulthood, like going to college and getting, you
Yeah.
know, maybe a real job for the first time. So just curious to know your thoughts.
I look at my own life at that age, and like I can tell you, like there was never a time when I was more fucked up than during those ages. Like just acting, just doing things that were really freaking stupid, and getting in, taking more risks than I should have been taking, like a huge amount of risk taking, dangerous behavior and stupid behavior. And like sometimes I think, how did I live through it? You know, I shouldn't have. I mean, it's messed up relationships and no adults present usually. Thank God, in a way. I'm glad they weren't. But there's just a major finding yourself thing going on before your frontal lobe is like even close to being developed. Decision making is terrible. Inhibiting your impulses is, we're not there. You're not there yet with that. So you want something, you want it right now. And you're going to, and especially all the structures, the discipline around you from high school is usually gone at that point, or at least it used to be. Maybe a little less now. Yeah, our brains aren't. But the other part is like, is that necessary? Maybe we have to go do that. You're just asking, should there be structures to make it safer?
I mean, I think,
to be fair, a lot of kids live with their parents now still until they're
I
like
know, that's
25.
why I said
So
it's different.
maybe it's good all these kids don't move out of their parents' houses and they're 18.
I know. I feel like it's a little different. Like my kids, I was like,
Yeah,
out
it's
again.
different.
like, go all the way to Connecticut. Why don't you?
Yeah, out. Yeah.
I guess I'm more thinking like, and especially like right now, we're also seeing with the Epstein files, you know, some of the women were 21, 22. And yeah, you see the same kind of thing of people being like, oh, well, that's an adult. And like I have in my social circle someone who is 40 and he is dating a 21-year-old. And I'm like, that's gross. Just like developmentally, there's such, you know, there's such a, but everyone in our friend circle is like, well, they're both adults. And I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, they're adults,
are
but
they?
not really. Yeah, but are like to the point where like you have a lot in common with a 40-year-old when you just turned 21. I don't know. I
What's
just think
that
it's
like?
a very
I have
interesting.
curiosity about that too. Like, I know we're not adults at 21, but at what point
Are we?
should society like
Yeah.
turn them over, set them loose to make bad decisions? You know,
Yeah.
at some point you got to go out there, and I credit like finally growing up to like putting myself in terrible positions where I was like,
Yeah.
I do not want to live like this anymore. Like, this is not great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I had to be hit by like a Mack truck, like series of several terrible things happen all in a row, all because of me making stupid decisions. And then I'm like, oh, okay. All right, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Whether or not that person's 21 or they're 31, I think whenever you
Yeah.
have massive age differences, it makes people uncomfortable. And I think given our lived experience, Diana, like we are a little bit more sensitive to large age gaps than other people because we were abused by somebody with a large age gap. But also some people have those relationships and they're perfectly happy and they last and everyone seems
I don't think
healthy.
a lot of them last. The research shows that most of those don't last.
Yeah, I would
actually.
assume not.
Interesting.
I
I would assume not. It's good to know
Because-
there's actual data though.
Yeah, there
between
is.
like 20 and like maybe 45, it's like we're all, you know, like those age differences, you can still do the same things. You can go for bike rides. You get much higher above that. Those age gaps start to be real different, you know? It's like, gotta go prep for my colonoscopy, and she's like going clubbing. It's like, okay, these are different lives.
I'm having lunch at 3 and you're having dinner in an hour. What's going on? Well, my second to last question, Piper, would be what are some like main presenting issues that you're seeing in our youth today?
So you're asking more about like mental health issues that are coming up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as you would expect, there was sort of this huge spike of anxiety, social anxiety specifically after COVID. So kids came back totally messed up, I would say. So anxious, so like the percentage, I think the normal percentage of anxiety in kids is like 20% of all kids are experiencing maybe even clinical levels of anxiety. After COVID, I don't know the actual number, but it seemed like more like half of kids
Wow.
were coming in like really socially anxious, unable to make eye contact, unable to make friends, like sweats and shakes and like couldn't
Oh my
give
God, that really
presentations
breaks my
in
heart.
class. Like, oh, it was bad. It's really bad. I would say that like if you had a graph that like peaked right after kids came back and it stayed high for a while. So kids that were quarantined during 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 7th, maybe even 5th, those kids really, by the time they got to high school, were still a little messed up.
Well, that makes sense because I taught college course this fall, and I had a bunch of freshmen, and they would be that demographic. And same thing, they
Yeah,
could not make eye contact. They would not speak
yeah,
above a whisper. If you
right.
like called on them, it looked like they were gonna cry. I mean, like, and I would feel terrible, but it's like I can't
Yeah.
not engage with you. Like I can't. The
Like we are
solution,
going to talk. We're going to
yeah,
speak with each other.
the
Yes.
solution can't be that I just avoid you and coddle this fear. Like at some point you have to work through this and you have to figure out how to like talk to people again. But it's interesting that you say that because they would have been the exact age group of
Yeah.
that. And it's
So this
intense.
year is the first year like freshmen are acting like almost like normal children.
Nice.
So this
It's only
group,
taken 6 years.
Yeah, there's gonna be
and
this
these
like real weird
Oh, poor
group
these
of
kids would have been
adults.
like what, fourth grade?
Yeah.
Fourth grade during COVID, third or fourth. Those kids seem like they recovered and they're like almost like normal people.
Because they were probably young enough to not really have an
Yeah,
understanding
like
of
it
what was
didn't
happening.
totally
Yeah.
kill their social, but I think it's because there's some sort of critical, when I was talking about middle schoolers being like total monsters and like mean and there's so much bullying and just nasty, nasty. Apparently that's like a critical period of development. That's what I'm thinking. Like you have
Yes.
to figure out where you stand in like the Darwin's survival, whatever.
You
And
really,
if you skip that, like you just still don't know. Like you're in
That's
high
true.
school or college, and you still don't know. Like where do I stand up for myself? Do I not stand up for myself? So I think we still see a little of anxiety, but not like it was for a while. I think kids are sort of checked out. I think that the phones are really bad for kids.
Are they banning phones in District
I don't know.
300 too?
They keep talking about a policy, but as yet, no like district level policy where phones will be like out of the hands of kids during class, which has got to happen. Like it's
Yeah.
got to
It
happen.
used to be a rule
Yeah.
when I was in high school, before there were iPhones and we all
Mhm.
just had the flippy phones. It was a rule that you cannot have your phone. Like it was possible at one time. We can
Yeah.
do it again.
Then I know there's some parents that are pushing back against it because they're worried about like active shooter situations
I
that then the
know.
Yeah, but
kids
you
won't
can
have
have
knowledge
the
of.
phone in the classroom,
Just not in your hands.
a phone locker.
Yeah.
So something happens with active shooter, kids can go get their freaking phones,
Yeah.
but you don't need them all day long in their hands. So I know it's just boring to keep talking about it, but the stupid phones are like causing a lot of mental health issues.
They're rotting all our brains, not just the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, us too.
Yeah, they gotta put them down and talk to each other. And there's still a sense of going into a class and like there's 30 kids like with blankly staring at you, like, and getting them speaking is like not easy. Yeah.
Well, is there anything that you would like to plug? Anything that you're working on, or anything you just want people to know about you? Or about, any final thoughts or words? Where'd you go? There you are. Okay.
My phone was like, we're done. Low battery. Yeah.
Funny.
The outpatient practice that I work at is collaborative counseling and psychiatric. Well, collaborative. What is it?
That Wordle's really going well for your memory.
Collaborative counseling and psychiatric service. I'm just part-time there. When I retire, I'll be working more there than where I am. I did put in for retirement, so 4 more years.
Ooh, girl.
Are you making like a transition binder series? Because what is
Oh
that
my
school gonna
God.
do without you?
Yeah, I don't know.
Somebody better make sure that Get Out of Your Head Day remains a thing.
I don't know. We'll see.
It's not your problem.
It's not my problem. Won't be my problem. But
You've done
probably
so
I'll
much.
have to think about what things I actually care about having people carry on.
Yeah. Well, Piper, I mean, part of the reason why I wanted to have you on the show is because you are like such just an influential person in my professional life. And I still definitely consider you a friend. I know we don't talk as much anymore, but I try my best to channel Piper in a lot of situations. And I am very happy for you that you're going to be retiring soon. But I am sad for the school and the district because you really do so much for that school and the kids. And I just really have always admired the way that you really put the kids first and think about the kids. And you are one of the people who are there for the kids. And that is inspiring to see because as we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of teachers who knows what the fuck they're doing working with kids because they hate them. But you really, even though like you can be annoyed and critical of the kids, your heart really is with them. And I'm just so happy to know you and that we cross paths. And thank you for being a guest on our show.
Same. You also left a pretty big mark at, so like, don't, you were, I don't know how many years you were there, like
6.
5, 6? Okay. Yeah. I mean, you made an impression enough that people still remember you pretty well. So.
Oh no.
It's because, no, I mean,
it's not always a compliment.
In a good way.
I know.
That was a compliment.
Thank you.
I feel like you always, like, the thing about you and the reason why you doing a podcast is so good is because you just speak the truth. You speak your truth and you're like, deal with it.
That is how I live my life.
Yeah. And I admire that too. I think that's really cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And Sarah and I are still very interested in a student journalist interviewing us. Have you found us a student journalist yet?
You will have one.
Okay. I will follow up with you about that.
I think that'd be delightful.
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on the show and for letting us pick your brain about the youths.
Yep. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Where do I go?
That's so
I don't know how to get out.
There should be.
We need to make this just a social media content.
There it is.
I don't even know if there's. Okay, bye.
Maybe I'll have a sledding party on Sunday during the blizzard.
Ooh, a sledding party? What's that?
We go sledding. Sledding.
Bitch, I thought you said sledding.
No! I wondered why you looked so aroused when I said sledding. I was like, does she not know what sledding is?